Hello, Mark Levin, a journalist, a writer, a lawyer, the Mark Levin Show. Thank you for being with us.
It's such a tremendous honor. I would not want to be anywhere else than with you and the Israeli people right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Were you surprised when you learned about the Israeli attack on Iran last week?
Was I surprised? Not really. I mean, I'm certainly surprised by the nature of it and the timing of it, like the rest of the world was, which is the brilliance of the whole campaign. And really, historians will be writing, military historians, about what has taken place, how this was executed, really to perfection. And it is incredible. And I know the people of Israel are very proud of their fellow citizens, their military, proud of their prime minister and the government and all the ministers, and what they're doing is just absolutely crucial and important for Israel, for the United States and the free world, even if much of Europe doesn't understand it, but they don't understand a lot most of the time, so it doesn't really matter.
Here in Israel, we spoke a lot about the deception aimed at the Iranians before the attack and how we believed the reports about the crisis in the relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. Could you imagine it was part of the deception?
Well, it's something I knew. I didn't know there was an intentional deception, but what I did know is that President Trump has nothing but admiration for the Prime Minister and vice versa. And when these stories were leaked, a lot of them were leaked out of the United States government and so forth. Some of them were leaked, I think, to create a deception, but some of them were leaked by individuals who don't want a close relationship between Donald Trump and the Prime Minister. So it was hard to sort that out. I just happen to know both men, and I happen to know they like each other and they work together, and so I knew it was all BS. I do want to give you some fantastic breaking news, because there's a lot of people watching this who've been through hell. I mean, the sirens going off, people worried, many people being harmed and so forth. The voices of what I call the reprobates, the isolationists, the anti-Semites in the United States are very loud. But that's not America. The American people don't like anti-Semitism. They don't like this Islamist terrorism. They despise the government of Iran. Red-blooded Americans. So I want you to know, regardless of France and Macron, regardless of what's going on in Britain, regardless of this group or that group or any other group, the most powerful military force in the world, with our fantastic president who loves the Jewish people and loves the state of Israel and is a good friend of your prime minister, 8 out of every 10 Americans wants those nukes taken out and support the United States taking them out if the United States needs to take them out. So I think that gives you some good wishes from the American people.
So explain to me the argument within the right-wing camp. I saw what President Trump wrote to Tucker Carlson, was being very vocal against the idea of the U.S. attacking Iran. How come these loud voices are so different from the public opinion?
Because Tucker Carlson, who I call Chadwick Catarlson, represents this. What he and others have done is they have claimed the mantle of MAGA, which is the Trump political and cultural movement, Make America Great Again. And so he made a mistake. He crossed the line. He felt it was his movement, and it's not his movement. Look, 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. 77 million people. I dare say 75 million people have never heard of these other people. You know, so the media make them bigger than they are. Politicians think they're bigger than they are. Foreign leaders think they're bigger than they are. But you know what you do with a bully? You confront them and expose them. You've got military bullies. You've got political bullies. That's what you do. And when he decided that he would decide what MAGA is, I think that was a bridge too far for the President of the United States. His bad mistake. That is Catarlson's.
Can you analyze for us what happened? There was a negotiation between the U.S. and Iran. And then when Israel struck Iran, President Trump and the world saw the opportunity?
Look, I hesitate to speak for all these people, but let me say this about President Trump. I think he's made it abundantly clear. He wanted a negotiated deal, but he made it clear there's going to be no centrifuges that can produce nuclear-level nuclear bombs, period. Basically, he wanted them to surrender this project so that it could be dismantled, and not by them, but by other countries, perhaps even us. He had the backing of 52 out of 53 Republican senators in the Senate. That's huge. He had the backing of 80% of the Republicans in the House of Representatives. That's huge. He has the backing of 80% of the American people. That's huge. Donald Trump would prefer to get deals if he can get deals, but he's not an isolationist. He's not a pacifist. He's not an appeaser. Ask Mr. Soleimani. The problem is he's dead. You can't ask him anymore. And we can go on and on down the list. So he has never been one of these isolationists. Many of these isolationists, not all, are also anti-Semites. Donald Trump is the greatest friend of the Jewish people in the United States, where he is fighting anti-Semitism, where he's going over after colleges and universities that are promoting it, where he's going after funding sources. He's got all hands on deck. Every department of the United States government, he has a feel for the Jewish people. His father and mother did, too. His father set up gave the building for the first synagogue in one of the parts of New York City and so forth. He saw these things. He believes these things. So many of his friends are Jewish people. I'm a friend of his. I'm a Jewish person. It's not like he doesn't know where I stand. He knows exactly where I stand on these things. But he's smart. He takes all these things into consideration. He'd rather not have to see war. But he's not a guy who says there will never be war. He's a guy who says it's the last resort. And so to answer your question is, he experienced, as did his team, that the negotiations with the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran didn't seem to be going anywhere. And they had a last chance. It's your last chance. 60 days are almost over. And Khomeini stepped in himself and said no deal. 60 days were up. And so the position of the United States is, as articulated by the president and nobody else, there are going to be no nukes. It's actually gotten a little more complicated since then, where everybody sees the ballistic missiles and the Chinese providing the fuel for the ballistic missiles. We know about the Russians providing the ground-to-air systems to Iran. So getting a deal is far more complicated. And even now he's saying unconditional surrender. That means you give it up. Not just nukes, you surrender. And Khomeini said no. I wouldn't want to be in Khomeini's sandals right now.
What is the current dilemma from the perspective of President Trump and the U.S. government?
I don't see a dilemma. There's almost an eerie silence right now. So what does that tell me? Again, I'm reading tea leaves. I have no inside information. We moved some more ships into the region. We've moved our bombers into a particular location. I don't see that as a dilemma. I see that as forward positioning. But what do I know?
What do you think this preemptive strike has done to the way Israel is perceived by the U.S. and the world?
I think the whole world is like, wow, how the hell did they pull this off? Absolute genius. It's like with Hezbollah. Hezbollah, you like blew out their entire leadership so quickly in ways that nobody could possibly imagine. We have military experts coming on American TV. I mean, good men who've been in combat and so forth, who are awestruck about the precision. They're awestruck by Mossad and other intelligence apparatus that you have. They're awestruck by the IDF. They're awestruck by your prime minister and his government. And I think the whole world, whether they be enemy, adversary, or ally, is stunned by the genius and the execution of what took place. But, you know, Jews like me, we always know that the Israelis are quite brilliant at what they want to do and what they need to do. And, you know, when you're a country that needs to do these things out of necessity, you have to figure out how to do it. You don't have more people than them. They have 10 times more people than you, and I can go down the list. So you have to be smarter. And there's really nobody smarter than the Israeli people and the Israeli government.
Do you predict that in the end of all this, the Ayatollah regime will fall?
Well, I don't know if it matters if I predict it yes or no. It's my hope that it does. and I've been staying here in the United States, why are we sparing the Ayatollah? And I suggested to the Ayatollah, who always takes my advice, of course, I suggested to him he ought to do what his great hero Hitler did. He ought to be in his bunker with his cyanide pills and get it over with. And that's the best that could happen to him. But my own view is, I don't know why we feel, if we feel this way, that he should be immune. He shouldn't be immune. He should be target number one. He's threatened the United States again. He said there'll be full-out war. My view is we've had enough of this old buffoon, this 7th century primitive barbarian who's got his hands on 21st century technology that can blow up the world. Enough is enough. And unlike some in the United States, they call this regime change. They mean regime change. I call it national security and defense. Take them out. Be done with them. It's one thing to take out nuclear sites or ballistic missiles and so forth and so on. We got to make sure that that regime cannot rebuild as a regime. The way you get rid of evil is you get rid of evil.
Mark, did you believe after October 7 that Netanyahu, Israel, will carry out such an attack on Iran?
At some point, I figured something had to happen. And it's not as exactly that Netanyahu hasn't been very clear about this. He's told the entire world that he won't put up with it, that Israel won't put up with it. I think what precipitated it now is a couple of things. Number one, that enemy has never been in a worse position, with Hamas on its heels, with Hezbollah sucking wind, with the Houthis hammered pretty good by the United States, and you folks, the Israelis, also taking out most of their air defenses and their ability to defend themselves in Iran. If not now, when? The least amount of damage to the Israeli military and the Israeli people, although for some people it may seem difficult if they happen to live near where these missiles are coming down, was and is now. So it's utterly and completely propitious that it is taking place. And it didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen because the stars aligned right. It happened because you have a great leader who saw this as an opportunity, despite the fact that he had generals that didn't agree with him, intelligence officials that didn't agree with him, a media that's almost 100% against him, other than a few places, like you, and parties that were busy trying to knock out his government, and an attorney general and courts that were busy trying to put him in prison while he's fighting these fights. It's just remarkable what's taken place. By the way, same in our country. They tried the same thing with Donald Trump, and there he is back as president. The difference between our country and your country in this respect is, once we have a president, all the little ankle biters out there, they have to cut it out because the president can't be charged while he's president. In your country, whether he's prime minister or not, whether you're in the middle of a war or not, whether you're trying to take out nuclear missiles across several borders or not, they just keep coming and they just keep coming. I just pray that the Israeli people who are united in this moment will tell these unelected prosecutors, investigators, enough is enough. If he wants to smoke cigars, he smokes cigars, just like Churchill. If he wants to have some champagne, then he has champagne, just like Churchill. Stop trying to concoct criminal charges against him and his family. Get the hell off his back and let him do what he needs to do.
Mark Levin, thank you so much for being with us. I hope our next meeting will take place after we will defeat the Ayatollah regime in Iran.
I agree 100%, and I want the Israeli people to know I'm absolutely serious. You have hundreds of millions of Americans who admire you and stand with you. God bless you all.